Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and even another episode in the Atomiswave to Dreamcast port series because we have so many new Atomiswave games to play on Dreamcast, and today we're taking a look at Faster Than Speed, which to me kind of feels like San Francisco Rush, which is to say it's a super arcadey racing game with a lot of jumps going on in it. Now, I don't love it as much as San Francisco Rush, but it's still an awesome game. We'll get into that very shortly. If you can do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we have a Patreon link down there as well. But this is one of the games that's super fun to be able to have on the Dreamcast, just like Dolphin Blue, because there was no other way to play this unless you owned an original Atomiswave cartridge or if you emulated it. And obviously if you owned an original Atomiswave board and cartridge, you also needed to deal with wiring up wheels and pedals because this was an arcade racing game. So anytime an arcade racing game comes home and you can just use a controller, it's awesome. And you'll see here we get a good selection of vehicles, but I'm going to take what I'm going to call the Volkswagen GTI. Actually could be a Honda Civic, but I have a GTI, it looks like my car, so we're going to run with it. But this is another awesome port to the Dreamcast from MegaVolt 85. And I keep using the word port, but I have explained that's a little bit of a misnomer because the Atomiswave and the Dreamcast hardware are basically identical outside of one being for the home and the other being for the arcade. But if you like arcade racing games, you're definitely going to love Faster Than Speed because it has that same San Francisco Rush DNA in it. And I've always loved those type of arcade racing games. I own all the San Francisco Rush games released for consoles, and while I haven't collected an arcade PCB for it yet because I don't want another wheel and pedal set in my closet, it's definitely something that in the future when I have more space, I am going to purchase. But having this right here is a really nice bonus to the Dreamcast library because there's a ton of good racing games on the Dreamcast, but having one more if you're a fan of them is absolutely spectacular. And the way you can play this is twofold. You can either emulate it in Demule or any other Dreamcast emulator. I'm using Demule right now because my Dreamcast hates playing with my capture card nicely. Or you can put it on an optical disc emulator in your Dreamcast and load it up perfectly fine from there. The steering is perfect on the Dreamcast controller. I use an Xbox One controller on my PC when I'm emulating, and everything works really well. There's a little hitching now and then, and I didn't experience that on the console, but for ease of capture, like I said, emulation. But it works really well. It's a super fun racing game. It has everything that you're kind of looking for and want in something like this. Now, I wish the game had pushed a little further with the whole jumping aspect, and I wish there were a little bit more in the way of shortcuts, because it definitely feels like a street race from point A to point B, but I kind of wish it had that same San Francisco Rush thing going on, where you could dive into a parking garage or over a building to kind of cut some of that time off. And the other thing that I think is strange, and I don't know that I hate it, but I wish you had some more options, is that all of the races seem to take place at night. So even though this is a different course, there is a little bit of asset reuse here and there, so sometimes it can feel like you might be on the same track even when you're not. So I wish there was some more daytime courses, some sunset courses, or even some like rain or fog going on, something that San Francisco Rush did really well. But those are really minor complaints. I just wish there were more jumps in the game, and I wish that it took place at different times in the day. But as far as the controls are concerned, as far as the racing experience is concerned, it is extremely good. The only other thing that I get confused about sometimes, and that's because I haven't played it that much, is that sometimes you can take the wrong turn. Those pink arrows, it's really hard to see what direction they're pointing until you're really close to them, and if you're too close to them, you're going to go in the wall. But the game has a great mechanic. You'll hear that little recharge ching there, and now you have your boost gauge active. So you're always able to boost through the game, and you want to actively manage that so you don't use it too early, too late in a corner, because you are racing heads up against an opponent. If you're close to beating them towards the end, having a boost gauge in reserve is going to definitely be to your benefit, because I beat him by 2 seconds and I used my boost effectively and I was able to kind of get past him. And anytime you win, you're given an option to take a new car out and race with it. So what I'm going to let you do is watch the next track from start to finish without me talking. The sound effects are great, the music's awesome, it's really fun, and I'll be back in like a minute.
Check it out. Go!
I particularly love the crashes in the first person view of this game as well, and you'll see now that we've taken that big crash, our car is just absolutely beat up, and the handling does change. I haven't yet been able to break a car completely. Maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, I've never played, but I do like the fact that you have to kind of live with the consequence of not racing well. And you'll see, I kind of used my boost a little bit too late. Had I been a little smarter about it, I probably would have won that race because I was only off by almost like 30 tenths of a second. And you'll see that that's the fun of this game, is that you're constantly struggling against that opponent. And as you get into the higher race category, some of the more difficult tracks, your opponent's better, the track's more difficult, and being able to do that head-to-head racing, beating of your opponent, is just a really fun feel. Now, you're not going to get a ton of mileage out of this game like some of the other games that have been released. The fighting games, you can play those and get a lot better at them. You can have a friend over and do two-player matches. Arcade racing games are fun for as long as you're playing them, but there's really not a ton to come back to. And that's kind of why I wish they'd push this game a little bit more, because there could be a little more fun in there. But with an arcade racer, you're only ever going to get like half an hour of fun out of it. But considering you can just put this on your Dreamcast, or you can emulate it, and it's no big deal, it works perfect. And you'll see there, I don't know what I was doing, I just boosted straight into the wall. My wife made me toast when I was playing this game, and I took a bite, so maybe that's what it was. I just was hungry and trying to get this done at the same time. But it's so incredible we're getting all these games on Dreamcast right now, and in every video I keep saying that same thing, but I really want to emphasize this was not something that was expected. Who knew in November of 2020, suddenly we were going to just be getting dumped on with games that work on Dreamcast. And this is another game, just like Dolphin Blue, that was never ported to any other platform. So now suddenly it's at home on a console, you can play from your couch on a Dreamcast controller and have a ton of fun. It kind of feels like the Dreamcast just launched again. It's like fall of 1999 again, except it's actually fall of 2020, but we have 9 at this point in time when I'm recording this new Dreamcast games we can play whenever we want to, and that is not something I expected to happen whatsoever in 2020, but hey, a lot of things that are happening in 2020, definitely unexpected. But short of that, I will be back on Saturday with another video in our standard series, and I'll have videos on Tuesday and Friday as well, and I will continue to keep making these Atomiswave to Dreamcast port videos as the games come out. If there's a new game, I'll make a new video. You guys seem to be enjoying it, and I really like getting the word out about how cool these happenings are. Because even if I had nothing to do with the conversion process, I've done some converting of arcade games in the past, and I really want to, give my appreciation to people that do stuff like this, because without MegaVolt 85 making these things work, you wouldn't be able to play them, so big thanks to him. But short of that, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'm happy to help. Love chatting with you guys. And if you can do me a huge favor, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.